Oh, getting our news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? I don't know what's going on with this accent I'm doing right now. I don't know what's going on with that. That's kind of weird. All right, we're waiting for everything to load up. YouTube, you are awake. Good morning, YouTube. Good to see you. Hope everyone is well. We'll let some people log in here. I'm usually this week, because I'm going on the road this week, my schedule is topsy turvy. I did the patron stream on a day where I never really do a patron stream. I'm doing Get Your News On with Ron on a day where I typically don't do Get Your News On with Ron. Our usual day is Thursday because we let some more news happen. That's why it makes more sense that way. We're letting more news happen. What's up, Edwin? How's it going, buddy? I don't know if you saw, I did a Twitter space yesterday and I recommended some music suggestions. I don't know if you got to check it out, but we'll go ahead and get started here. Everything is awake. Rockfin is awake. Twitter is awake. YouTube is awake. So, what's up, everybody? Good afternoon. Good evening. Good tomorrow. If you're in the future, Australia, New Zealand, please solve climate change and text me the solution. And I'll let everyone in the United States know. I'll be like, we figured it out. And the United States will say, we don't care. And I'll be like, yeah, that's kind of the problem. Anyway, good to see everyone. And to everyone listening to the podcast later, hope all is well. Please leave us a 5-star review, would you? Leave us a 5-star review. That'd be very, very much appreciated. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron. This is the headline show for the week. I know you're thinking, Ron, usually the headline show comes out on Thursday. What's going on? Has there already been enough news for the week? Well, of course there's been, first of all. But no, the main reason I'm doing it today, a couple days early, is because I hit the road. Thursday, I got a show in Portland, Oregon, which, by the way, don't wait. Get your tickets now. Graham Elwood and I are hitting the road this weekend. Thursday, July 28th, Portland, Oregon. I know it's going to be hot, but guess what? The venue has air conditioning. So Thursday, July 28th, Portland, Oregon. July 29th, Seattle, Washington. July 30th, Vancouver, British Columbia. Come hang out. Can't wait to see you. This is 2 years in the making, Northwest. Cannot wait to see you. So we'll be seeing you soon. So that's why the show is different this week. And everyone who already plans on coming out, I am super, super stoked to see you all. We got a lot to talk about today. So there is the staffers who protested Congress. So they're being protested by their own employees. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about what happened. Spoiler alert, they arrested people. We're also going to talk about some updates on Antitrust Summer and how that relates to all this. And we're also going to talk about why Section 230 is so important because it's something they're trying to do in South Carolina. And the last thing we're going to talk about today, and some of you actually requested this, is the shooting that occurred in my neighborhood. The shooting that occurred in my neighborhood over the weekend. It happened on Sunday. I have some thoughts about it, and we're going to be talking about that. For anyone not in the know, there was a shooting in my neighborhood of San Pedro, and we're going to be, some of you guys were asking, what are my thoughts on it? We're going to be talking about it. But first, let's start here. Oh, man, I forgot to, sorry, guys. I actually forgot to do a step here. I apologize. Let me fix that real quick. Here we go. Boom. We're going to start with Section 230. And let me scroll up to the top here. South Carolina bill outlaws websites that tell how to get an abortion. So this is what South Carolina is trying to do. This is from this week. Shortly after the Supreme Court ruling overturned the right to abortion in June, South Carolina state senators introduced legislation that would make it illegal to, quote, aid, abet, or conspire with someone to obtain an abortion. The bill aims to block more than abortion. Provisions would outlaw providing information over the internet or phone to obtain an abortion. Or how to obtain an abortion. It would also make it illegal to host a website or provide an internet service with information that is reasonably likely to be used for an abortion. So let's repeat that. All right. I'm just going to repeat that part. All right. Let's take it slow here. It would also make it illegal to host a website or provide an internet service with information that is reasonably likely to be used for an abortion and directed at pregnant people at this in the state. Now, of course, people are saying that this is totally unconstitutional, and it is. But we'll see what happens here. And this reminds me of a little thing called Section 230. Again, hosting websites or providing an internet service. So now ISPs need to be worried about, well, who am I providing internet to? Now, website hosts are being like, oh, www.howtofindAbortionResources in South Carolina. I'm not going to host that website. And this is why Section 230 was so important, because Section 230 didn't just quote unquote provide shield to social media. That's not what it did. Section 230 provided free speech rights to basically all users on the internet, from web hosting companies to, yes, social media platforms, to users like you or I, to other websites. So blowing a hole in Section 230 was a terrible idea. The better idea would be to implement new policy that meets the moment and addresses some of the problems we're seeing with the behavior of social media platforms. That's the better solution, not to blow a hole in a policy that's essential for commerce and exchange of information on the internet. That's what Section 230 does. And we were screaming about that. Other people weren't screaming about it, or they were screaming the opposite. And I guarantee you, most, if not all of those people never read the damn thing. Because if you take the time to read the thing, it's not a long document. It's actually quite easy to read. We read it on the show. Do you guys remember that? We just read the thing on the show. Took like 10 minutes. We read it. And here's actually a tweet that Ron Wyden put out that basically says that same thing. So this is why now they're going to try to go after web hosting sites, and they're going to try to crack down on people trying to get information to obtain abortion services. If you're not going to be able to do it in South Carolina. So here's what Ron Wyden said about this. Section 230 and the First Amendment are the last line of defense against Republicans eager to censor reproductive health care information. As the original author of this law, I'll continue fighting to ensure this information remains accessible online to every single American. So you get the idea. Without Section 230, South Carolina would be able to do something like this, where they'll be able to say, okay, you can't host a website that might have information to abortion services to people. You can't host that here. Or the web hosting company will be held liable. Even internet services. So who knows how far they'll go? Where would it stop if something like that was implemented in the most strict fashion? Where if you provide internet service to someone providing abortion information, does that mean someone who wrote a book on abortion rights in South Carolina, they won't be able to get internet? That's what that could mean. Do you guys see how severe that is? Do you guys see what a free speech nightmare that is? And how Orwellian that straight up is? That's what Section 230 protects from. Bullshit like that. And now, because they're trying to blow a hole in Section 230, and by the way, it's not just Republicans trying to blow a hole in Section 230. Ron Wyden should also be directing this at some of his colleagues who have tried to blow a hole in Section 230. Amy Klobuchar with the Safe Tech Act. And I know Amy Klobuchar wrote a decent antitrust bill as of recent. But she's definitely got some skeletons in her closet when it comes to digital rights. So this is why Section 230 is so important, folks. And South Carolina is trying to get around this, and they might succeed because guess what? They've been trying to blow a hole in Section 230 for a while now, and it's Republicans and Democrats doing it. And this is why Section 230 is so important, because without Section 230, you can do things like hold web hosting companies responsible for whatever content. And it could be content that you say people shouldn't be able to see. People shouldn't be able to have information on how to get an abortion. That's what our state has decided. So now anyone hosting that information or sharing that information, they shouldn't be able to have an internet service, and the ISP could be responsible. The web hosting company could be responsible. This is why gutting Section 230 is a terrible idea. And if you don't understand, regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, if you don't see at this point why gutting that policy is an absolutely terrible, terrible, terrible idea, I don't know what to tell you. We've read the policy on this show. We've broken it down. We've explained. We're like, look, I know there's a problem with what social media is doing. We don't dispute that. However, blowing a hole in Section 230 is not the answer, because Section 230 applies to everyone. It's not just something for social media companies. It's for all internet users. It's for web hosts. It's for other websites. It's for comment sections. It's for you as an individual. It's for ISPs. It's for everyone to assure the free flow of information on the internet. And yes, social media companies are behaving in disgusting ways, and we need to have new policy that meets that moment. I think they should just be designated utilities and have to follow the free speech laws of the United States. That's what I think needs to happen. I think anything less isn't enough. But I think trying to find other solutions that blow a hole in policies that are important is a shitty idea. I know that's the American way. Hey, we have a problem. Let's get some shitty policy up in here to make it worse. That's what they're doing right now with the what's the new thing? The Safer America Act, or the Safer America plan. That's Biden's new plan to give money to cops. From the people who brought you the crime bill and from the people who brought you the Patriot Act, here's part 3, the Safer America plan, where they're just going to give a bunch of money to cops and brutalize you further and strip away your civil liberties further. Isn't it amazing living in a country where they take societal ills and they use it to make your life worse? That's the United States. They take something terrible that happens in a society, be it 9/11, be it the Boston Marathon bombing, whatever it is, and they use that to implement policy that makes everything worse. Be it the Patriot Act, be it the crime bill, whatever it may be. Instead of trying to come up with policy that makes society better, they try to come up with policy that makes your life worse. And why do they do that? Well, because you are just an object to be exploited here. The United States is not a country. It is a corporation. And you are one of the widgets. You are something to be exploited. Your health is something to be exploited. Your freedom is something to be exploited. That's why we have for-profit prisons. Your education is something to be exploited. That's why we have crippling amounts of debt. And they see the internet as something to be exploited. So, anyway, that's getting a little deeper into it there, but that's why Section 230 is so important, and why getting rid of that is a terrible idea, and has always been a terrible idea, and will always be a terrible idea. All right, so let's go to these protesting staffers, which, by the way, they got arrested. That's what ended up happening. But here's a headline on it from Gizmodo. Congressional staffers occupied Senator Chuck Schumer's office in climate protests. The call for climate action is coming from inside the House. More than a dozen congressional staffers occupied the Washington, D.C. office of Chuck Schumer. I wonder if he was even there. In a protest demanding that Congress pass policy to combat climate change. Just imagine for a second being so terrible at your job, just so terrible at your job, that your own employees are protesting you. They're not. I mean, this is beyond a bad review. This is beyond an intervention. They're protesting you to do something. Hey, Mac, how was your weekend? I don't know, but right now we're protesting you to do something. You are so shitty at your job that we're protesting you. Can you imagine any other scenario where that would happen? Any other scenario? Like you think in a normal office, they'd be like, guys, we are organizing a protest against Bob and IT. Bob has not fixed a computer for 6 weeks now. He has done absolutely nothing. And when you're saying, Bob, the tech problems are mounting. The internet's been out for weeks. You have to do something. Bob babbles something about the parliamentarian, and then he tweets thoughts and prayers. What are we going to do about Bob? We surely have to have a protest here. We're going to protest Bob to do something. Hopefully that works. Although we don't know if Bob's going to show up to work or not. Can you imagine that happen? No, that wouldn't happen in a normal. Bob would have been fired. Bob would have been fired years ago. They'd be like, fuck Bob. Bob sucks as an IT guy. He's out. But these guys, no. No, they're literally being protested by their own employees. Wow. I mean, it's amazing. All right, let's see what else there is to this. It's just you got to just take a breath and take a step back and realize how absolutely absurd this is. In an emailed statement to Gizmondo, U.S. Capitol Police said the following. Oh, that's good. They're getting involved. Around 11:15 a.m., U.S. Capitol Police officers responded to a demonstration that was inside room 322 in the Hart Senate office building. 6 demonstrators were arrested. They were all House staffers. So here's some of the people. Saul Levin, who I think that's the tweet that I saw initially that alerted me to this. And that's a policy advisor for Cory Bush. Arya Kavlovich, who is a staffer for Ro Khanna. What was Ro doing at the time? Was he defending Nancy Pelosi? Was that what did you guys see Ro on CNN defending Nancy Pelosi? It was great. Rajiv Sikora, policy advisor for Jamal Bowman. Courtney Coble, who is a staffer for Jamie Raskin. Philip Bennett, or Benet, however he says it, who is a staffer for Ilhan Omar, and Emma Preston, who is a legislative assistant also for Representative Ro Khanna. Now, I believe Ilhan Omar and I think Ro Khanna, actually, they tweeted in support of their staffers. So here's an idea. If you're so in support of these staffers, how about you start voting as a block? Because that's why people are frustrated with the squad, is because they're not voting as a block. You guys are supposed to vote as a block because that's how you leverage your power to the best of your ability. No one's asking you to do anything outside of your ability. We all know that you are outnumbered by truly despicable, bought and paid for colleagues. We all know that. All we're asking is that you work together to leverage your power to the best of your ability. And as of now, you're not doing that. There's always just enough present votes to get something shitty through. Or, worst case, just enough yes votes to get something shitty through. Or not enough no votes to prevent something shitty from going through. You get the idea. We always lose by just this much. So if what you all are saying is true, and you genuinely support what your staffers are doing because they see that there's actually an emergency in front of us, start using the leverage you got. No one's asking you to use more than you got. We're just asking you to use what you got. And I know there's people out there, they will stand for the politicians they like because they like their Twitch streams, they like their tweets. They think they're among you. Guess what? I hate to break it to you. No matter who they are, Congress, the Senate, they are in the 1% of the 1% when it comes to power. Okay? That's just the truth. You know who said that? Not me. Ro Khanna said that. Those are his words. And they're true. They're in the 1% of the 1% when it comes to power. So you need to hold them accountable if you want to see any good policy happen in this country. And you need to pressure them if you want to see any good policy happen in this country. It doesn't apply to just the squad. It applies to every elected official, every single one. But it especially applies to the ones who are supposed to be on your side, who campaigned on being on your side, who campaigned on the policies that you want to see in the world. You know why? Because you helped get them elected. AOC would not have gotten elected if it wasn't for grassroots activists and organizers. Same with Ilhan Omar, same with Cory Bush, same with Ro Khanna. So when they don't act in our interests, we got to hold them accountable. You know why? Because no one else will. Everyone else wants them to act that way. What, you think, well, we shouldn't hold the squad accountable because Joe Manchin supporters will do that. No, it's up to us. This is not personal. This is just how politics works. So, what I really wish, I wish there was a way we could just like, how like I'm a big hockey guy. In hockey, they have these things called line changes where you just pull a line out and you put a fresh line in. You have to do it every couple minutes because hockey is a very exhausting game to play. So I think, why can't we just have a line change where all the staffers just replace everyone in Congress? That's what I want to do. At least, I mean, at least it appears like they care. I mean, I don't know. I don't know any of them personally, but at least, I mean, they're getting arrested for this. I'm inclined to believe at least they, and these are staffers, by the way. These are people who have a hope in the electoral system that I don't share. They have a reverence for the electoral system that I don't share. Doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means I can't relate to that. I occupy a different lane. I am an outsider. I will always be an outsider. I like being an outsider. It makes sense to me. Comedians, we're all the same. We're very, very scared of clubs, especially clubs that might want us to be a member. That freaks us out. I think I'm paraphrasing Groucho Marx, but it's the frickin' truth. It freaks us out. So that's my take on that. So shout out to those staffers. Shout out to them. And yeah, I wish we could just kind of sub them in. Just put them in. So, speaking of Chuck Schumer and how he's not doing anything to the point where their own employees are protesting them, and Chuck Schumer wasn't the only one they were protesting, of course. They were protesting everybody. But, you know, we've been trying to get Chuck Schumer to do something on antitrust. Now, those of you who've been following the show, we've been talking antitrust summer a good bit. And what's going on there? Well, there's two antitrust bills sitting in Congress right now. They have bipartisan support. They are overwhelmingly popular. They rein in big tech monopolies when it comes to products and services being prioritized by Amazon and Google. They rein in the near monopoly they have in the App Store, where they charge exorbitant fees and commissions to independent and alternative apps. They also dictate what works and doesn't work on your device. This reins all that in. These bills were written by Amy Klobuchar and Chuck Grassley, a Democrat and a Republican, again, who have missed the mark on digital rights before, but they're getting it right on this one. And I believe the other bill was written by Senator Blumenthal, Richard Blumenthal. These bills are overwhelmingly popular. They are strong pieces of legislation. Do they solve all of our digital rights issues? Of course not. No single pieces of legislation will. But they're a hell of a start. They're a hell of a step in a better direction when it comes into reining big tech and tech monopolies. And hey, we've gotten antitrust legislation through in this country under Reagan, so it can be done even if you have terrible people in power. And Chuck Schumer claims to support these bills, but he won't bring them to a vote. And the reason he won't bring them to a vote, let's be honest, they claim that the votes aren't there, even though multiple reports from Reuters and Chuck Grassley himself, a Republican, is saying, yes, the votes are there. But Chuck Schumer won't bring these bills to a vote. Why? Because his daughter works for Amazon and his other daughter works for Meta, which is Facebook. This guy is one of the most compromised by big tech politicians out there, and that's saying a lot because big tech, they buy all of our politicians. But here's something from a Reddit AMA that I want to share. This included Evan Greer, policy director of Fight for the Future. I believe that's her title. Or it might be it might just be like overall director of I'm not sure, but whatever Evans, she is involved in Fight for the Future, very, very heavily involved. And if I misspoke on her actual title, I apologize. And full disclaimer, I collaborate with Fight for the Future on a regular basis on campaigns as well. But here's something I wanted to share from this AMA. I know that this might be a little hard to see for y'all. We're experts on the economy, law, and tech from Consumer Reports. Fight for the Future, Proton Public Knowledge, along with Cory Doctorow. Shout out to Cory Doctorow, friend of the show, been on the show before. Ask us anything about how we can take the internet back from big tech this antitrust summer. So I'll read this preamble here. This antitrust summer, we're taking the internet back from big tech. Right now, Congress is considering two bills that will reshape how Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Apple control what we do online. ACOA and the Open Market Act. Those are just the acts that I summarized. Together, these bills will restore competition online by preventing the biggest tech companies from biasing search results in their favor and preferencing their own products. It will also help consumers and will create a better digital environment. We need everyone to act today. All right, so I want to share some of this. Um, Here's two questions. What are the odds of these bills making it through the de facto 60 vote requirement in the Senate? And number two, what are the most common ways that big tech manipulates our digital lives? Those are two excellent questions, and they'd be pretty heavy to answer. Fortunately for us, Evan answered them, so we're going to just use her answers. So here's Evan's answer to the first question. Great question. The first one is surprisingly easy to answer. These bills, ACOA and OMA, have more than enough votes to pass. They're bipartisan and passed out of the Senate Judiciary Committee with overwhelming support. Chuck Grassley, the lead GOP co-sponsor, has said that there are more than enough GOP votes to give it a filibuster-proof majority. Amy Klobuchar, the Dem lead sponsor, has said she has the votes. Big tech lobbyists have privately told news outlets they know the votes are there. Wow, I didn't even know that part. So big tech lobbyists are even admitting, yeah, the votes are there because this policy is overwhelmingly popular, despite all of our efforts. And they've been spending millions to try to stop these bills, by the way. It's all up to Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who promised to vote on the bills, but so far has failed to deliver. We are worried Chuck Schumer is trying to run out the clock, which is why we've been focusing on so much pressure on him. We'd urge anyone who cares about reining in big tech monopoly abuses to contact Senator Schumer and urge him to move these bills to the floor. Then Evan goes on to say, I'll answer your second question in a separate reply just to keep it easier to read. So, by the way, where she's referring to direct people, antitrustsummer.com. If you have not signed that petition, please do so. Okay, so here's Evan's answer to the second question. Regarding your second question, I'm sure many other experts will chime in here and explain the individual and collective harm of things like Amazon and Google's self-preferencing practices, but I'll focus in on one that really gets my goat: Apple's super restrictive app store and software policies. People should have a basic right to pick and choose what software they run on devices they own. That right will become increasingly important in a future with devices like Oculus as the primary ways we access whatever the future is of the internet. If hardware manufacturers, don't just think Apple, think Amazon, Meta, etc., can control what software we run on devices we own, that creates an enormous choke point for authoritarian censorship and surveillance. Just as one example, when the news broke that NSO Group's Pegasus hacking tool had been used to target human rights activists using a vulnerability in iMessage, you literally could not uninstall iMessage from your iPhone because Apple forcibly bundles it. I love this joke that Evan ends with. That's worse than the U2 album. I don't know if I'd go that far, Evan. That's a little harsh. I don't know, Evan. I don't remember when U2 forced that album on everyone. You just had U2's album taking up space on your phone. How presumptuous of them that, like, oh, everyone, what's this album? Ugh, I finally got it off my phone. It was a process though. I remember that. I don't still have that phone. But it was a process getting that phone off my getting that album off my phone, getting that phone off my album. In the future, all phones will be on albums. Actually, you know what? I might be for it. I might be for it. Let me think about that. You can't have a smartphone unless you buy vinyl. No, I don't want to impose my vinyl love on other people. I love vinyl, but if somebody does it, that is their right. I get it. It's bulky and it's heavy. It's hard to transport. I love vinyl until I have to move. For a little bit, I didn't love vinyl anymore. I moved recently. Some of you guys know that I'm still in San Pedro. I just moved to a different. Actually, just moved down the street. I shouldn't even say like a different part of the neighborhood. I'm really in the same part. I just moved down the street. But yeah, I didn't love vinyl then. I did not love vinyl then. So, folks, they're trying to get Chuck Schumer and everybody else to act on climate change. And they're also trying to get Chuck Schumer to bring these antitrust bills to a vote. Now, why is there the sense of urgency? Because if they don't get a vote on this before the August recess, they're going to be like, hey, it's time for us to focus on the midterm. Sorry, we're not going to legislate on anything. Then this bill is going to try to kind of fall by the wayside. So we need to force the vote now. We need it now. Go to antitrustsummer.com. Make your voice heard. All right. So last thing I want to talk about today is not a fun topic well, I guess a lot of these topics haven't been fun, but like a lot of it is, just news in the world that's important. That doesn't mean it's necessarily fun, folks. We try to make it as fun as one can if you yeah, whatever. Um, so speaking of my neighborhood, San Pedro, and the brief moment where I didn't like vinyl because I had to move, there was a shooting in my neighborhood over the weekend. The shooting occurred in Peck Park. Well, let's go straight to what happened. San Pedro shooting. This is from the local ABC affiliate here in Los Angeles. San Pedro shooting. Suspects sought after 2 killed and 6 injured by gunfire at Peck Park. Now, when I initially tweeted about this, they had not reported any casualties. They had just reported injuries. And so far, there had not been any fatalities recorded, but unfortunately, 2 people did end up dying. So there were casualties. 2 were killed, 6 were injured. San Pedro, the search continued Monday for suspects after 2 people were killed and 6 others injured in a shooting at a park in San Pedro, Peck Park. Local leaders and residents held a press conference Monday morning to discuss the enforcement of park permits. They said if those rules had been enforced, the shooting wouldn't have happened. Something like this happening in my backyard. I'm 5 minutes away from this park is shocking, said one community member. The incident was reported near a car show. Now, it wasn't actually a car show. It was kind of just an informal, people were bringing their cars and there was a baseball game going on. But it happened at Peck Park on Northwestern Avenue just before 4 p.m. on Sunday. So they've identified 7 victims, including 2 who died. And one of the people drove themselves to the hospital with a gunshot wound. They determined one additional person had been wounded in the shooting, a man who drove himself to the hospital with a gunshot wound. Wow, that's intense. Driving yourself to the hospital with a gunshot wound. Man, I have a hard time driving if I want to take a sip of my drink. This guy had a gunshot wound. He's driving. So I'll say this. There are 2 big parks in San Pedro. Like 2, I mean, there's more than 2 parks, but there's 2 kind of like big main parks. Peck Park is one of them. The other one is called Point Furman. And at the time that shooting happened, I was in Point Furman. So out of the 2 parks, the one I wasn't in is where the shooting happened. The one I was in, there was no shooting, obviously. But had my wife and I selected the other park, I guess we would have been there. And some of you guys may recall a couple weeks ago, I tweeted about something. I had to text my wife and I had to make sure she wasn't going to be taking a certain bridge on her way home from work because there was an active shooter on that bridge. I don't think the person actually fired, but they were waving a gun around. And so there was somebody waving a gun around on the bridge. I guess, I don't know if they were threatening other people or threatening to harm themselves. But either way, I knew there was somebody waving a gun around on a bridge. I wanted to make sure my wife wasn't going to be anywhere near it. And she wasn't. She's like, no, I don't take that route anyway. So, but it's incredible. I mean, you just think about that. How, gee, there was a mass shooting where I was at the other park in town. And a few weeks prior, I was telling my wife, hey, are you going to go this way? Because there's someone waving a gun around. This is the United States right now. This is a society that is completely collapsing. And yes, the United States is collapsing. That's not an embellishment. That's not fear mongering. That's just accurate. It is collapsing. And things are going to change significantly, and they might change for the absolute worst. I mean, things are bad now. They can get worse, and they are going in that direction where they might get significantly worse. And I love my neighborhood. I really do. And I literally live on the edge of the country. I live like on the, like my neighbor is the Pacific Ocean. Like I am on the edge of the country. And even on the edge of it, you're still reminded every day of what country you're in. and how it's failing and how it's collapsing. You're really not immune anywhere. I guess the only way is if you're completely off grid. I think that's the only way. And even then, I mean, you still have to deal with the US. I mean, you're still in the country. So it's really heavy. I mean, I don't have all the answers, nor do I know exactly what the future holds. And ever since I started the Expatriate series, I've gotten a lot of flack for it. I've gotten a lot of support too, and I've gotten a lot of cool feedback. But I've also gotten a lot of flack for it of people. Of course, you get people, far right wingers that are like, "Never to leave it, pale America, bang bang," and I mean, I've been getting that like, pretty much my entire adult life, really. I mean, I've been getting that since college. But there's people on the left too that they say that, oh no, we gotta stay and fight fascism, we gotta do it, we gotta stay here because this is the root of it. And it's like, look, first of all, if things ever really went down, if things ever really, like, we're talking like Civil War level going down, what do you think is going to happen? The United States has the most powerful military in the world. They've made it abundantly clear they're willing to use that military on their own people. They've already done it. They also have a militarized police force to the gill that kills people for sport. What do you think is going to happen if we ever have a true violent uprising in this country? Who do you think is going to win? I mean, let's be real here. So, I think if you don't have an exit plan, I don't know what you're thinking. I think that's completely irrational. And I'm sorry, like that's just the way it is. If you think, well, I'm gonna stay right here no matter what, like real, no matter what, you're gonna stay right here. You're not gonna. Do you have a household? You wouldn't wanna try to get them to safety? So that's why I started Expatriate. I don't wanna leave my neighbor. I love my neighborhood. I don't wanna leave this place. But if it gets really freaking bad here, yeah, I'm not gonna stay. I'm not gonna stay and watch the collapse. I'm not gonna do that. I mean, this country is not worth dying for. This country is a pile of dirt and rocks that, quite frankly, couldn't give a shit about any human being. That is not worth fighting or dying for. This country is not worth fighting or dying for. Your household is. Your household is worth fighting and dying for. Your family is worth fighting and dying for. Your loved ones are worth fighting and dying for. So why wouldn't you get them to safety to the best of your ability? So that's what I think. That's what I think. Um, and for those of you who are like, we're gonna stay no matter what, we're gonna go for it. Go for it. I'm not telling anyone else what to do. I'm just giving you my take on it. Yeah, this place collapses. I will either get out or will try to get out. I mean, if I don't succeed in getting out, I guess there's that. But I will certainly try to get out. Cause yeah, I will try to get my household to safety. So there you have it. So I guess that's my take on that. I mean, it's part of a much heavier thing, and things are really really bad here, and they might get worse. They might get worse, and you have to think, what am I going to do as it gets worse? And I'm not saying leaving is your only choice. I mean, there's people going off grid. There's people kind of forming extensive mutual aid networks. There's people who are trying to, just kind of bond communities where they're basically um, as far removed as they can be from the contemporary American society. And I get that. I'm all for that. Other people, they're thinking, I'm going to go somewhere else. Um, Other people are, just kind of going with the flow, which I get. I'm not judging anybody else, but I'm telling you where I stand and what I believe. What I believe is, yeah, it's perfectly healthy and probably wise to have an exit plan in case you need to act on it. And yes, I do have one. So, and I'm working on one anyway. Um, so there we go. You're in SoCal, you're not getting out. What does that have to do with it? Why does it matter if I'm in SoCal or not? What does that have to do? Like how does that I mean, if anything, SoCal it's probably easier to get out. I mean, it's like we have water, we have, you know, and I'm very close to the Mexican border. I mean, I'm really like I could drive, but anyway, I don't know what SoCal has to do with it. Um So there you go. I wonder how bad it's going to get. I don't know. I hope. I mean, I'll put it this way. I hope my worst predictions don't come true. I really do. I hope that my personal worst predictions don't come true. Um, and it depends on the day. There are days where I feel more hopeless than others, and I'll tell you where I get my hope because I don't want to. I don't want to end on an all doom and gloom note. I get my hope from what I see going on in my neighborhood, obviously not when shootings happen, clearly, but when I see the activists in my neighborhood, when I see things like the community gardens in my neighborhood, when I see things like people coming to support each other in my neighborhood, that gives me hope. And I also really love the neighborhood that I'm in. And I think those are the kind of things that will keep this dystopian experiment um, going, really, and will kind of hopefully eventually lead to a better tomorrow. I'm not saying we should just focus on our neighborhoods and ignore everything else. I'm saying we should focus on our neighborhoods and build from there to make everything else better. Is that an impossibility? No, it is not. Is that going to be hard? Yes, it will be. Is that a more sustainable solution than violence or something like that? Abso-freaking-lutely. Absolutely. Violent solutions are usually not permanent. You can read the Anarchist Cookbook. It lays that stuff out. So, Venetia David, what's up? Come to Europe. We have limoncello. I fucked up my limoncello, actually. That's something that, man, I tried my limoncello yesterday. It's way too sweet. I fucked up the measurement somehow. I fucked up the rations of or the rationing of water to vodka to sugar. Yeah. But yeah, come to Europe. We have limoncello. I will be coming to Europe no matter what. So yeah, I will definitely see you on the road soon, Venetia David. And I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I fucked up my limoncello. I'm really bummed out about it. I think it's still salvageable, but I don't know. I've made it before. You're saying it's hard to make. I've made it before and it's worked out. I've made it before and it's worked out. So look, I'm not trying to be doom and gloom when I say have a backup plan or I suggest having. I mean, I'm not telling you what to do. If you want to not have one, that's your choice. Like knock yourself out. And if you think that if things really go down and there's a violent uprising here, if you think that somehow you're going to be fine against the most powerful military in the world and against a completely militarized police force too, good for you. I mean, I think that's insane, but you are welcome to feel however you want to feel. It's not my place to tell you what to do. Me personally, I'm having an exit plan. I'm having an exit plan. I'm working on my exit plan. That's why I have that's why I do the expatriate series. And I'm going to keep doing it. Because, for every nationalist, chauvinistic comment I get, which by the way, if you're one of these people, if you leave, that's selfish and you're blah blah blah. That's nationalism, by the way. That's just a different form of nationalism. That's nationalism from the other end. You're very similar to the "we love America" blah blah blah. You're just the other side of it. You're like, we got to stay in America because America blah blah blah. As if somebody couldn't go somewhere else and still try to make the world a better place. So, if you're one of those people, I mean, look. So I can't afford to leave. How do you know? How do you know? I know and by the way, I hope you'll check out the Expatriate series because we are going to be interviewing tons of poor people who have left, and I look forward to that. I mean, how do you know you can't afford to leave? And here's the question I ask people: can you afford to stay? I mean, this place is getting unlivable for so many people. Can you afford to stay? I mean, yeah, there's a cost to leave. Moving costs money. Yeah, staying costs money. And I'm gonna start sharing other people's stories because you hear these people, they didn't have a lot, but they had enough to just kind of get out and start somewhere else, and they're so much better off now. Like they're so much better off. So, yeah. Anyway, and again, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying you might be surprised, and I'm not saying you should leave, you shouldn't leave. I do recommend having a plan. If you don't want to have one, don't. That's not, I mean, it's your life. Do whatever you want. But, you know, anyway, that's enough. Thank you very much for the super chat contribution, Venetia David. Thank you very much for that. Um, and I got, what do you think of the Pens offseason moves? So I got to look into things a little more to tell you the truth. I've only been paying so much attention, Bob Base. But I gotta say, I am thrilled that the trio is sticking together for probably indefinitely. The trio's probably going to be together indefinitely. And of course, I'm referring to Evgeny Malkin, Sidney Crosby, and Letang. They're going to be together probably until they retire, which I'm super stoked about. I mean, Letang, they would have a hell of a time replacing Letang. Malkin, I love Malkin. I know there's some issues with him at times, but I love the way those two lines work and how, Crosby's line complements his style of playing and Malkin's line complements his style of playing and how their styles of playing are quite different. I'm just so glad they're staying together. And I got to tell you the truth. That was that when they managed to keep Letang, that was the first time anything in the news made me smile in a long, long time. I wish it was something more significant than hockey. I mean, let's look. I enjoy the game. I like watching hockey. At the end of the day, I don't. I don't. It doesn't really matter, right? So I wish that there was something in the news making me smile more than hockey. But hey, I'll take any smile I can get. You know what I mean? Laugh 66. What's up? I think you should, if you can, talk music and leave if you can. Um, okay. Talk music and I think you mean like the country. Um, I thought you meant just talk about music and then end the show. Well, I wouldn't be able to call it "Get Your News On with Ron" then. I'd have to change it to "Get Your Music On" with, which actually I'd love to have that show. I would love. I've been trying to get a music show on Sirius XM for a few years now. It just hasn't happened, but I've been trying. You guys know I did a couple music shows as a guest DJ on what was that network? Modern Retro Radio was that network. I had a good time doing that. I wanted to make it a permanent thing somewhere. I just don't have a platform for it. I can't do something like that on here because, like, you get. I mean, I'd be getting copyright strikes every second that I breathed. Breathed. Started. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like every single thing. You know what I mean? Um, But I've been wanting to have a music show, Laugh 66. I really should. I really do. But anyway, let me get back to your comment here. I think you should, if you can, talk music and leave if you can. I messaged about Michelle, but regarding other things, get to RF if you can, or Scotland is a bit better. RF, what do you mean? Get to RF. What's RF? Uh, I'm brain farting something here. What's RF? Um, I would love to. Scotland is amazing. Um, but what's RF? I'm missing something here. I think I'm missing an abbreviation or something. I'm having a brain fart here. Please let me know what RF means. Scotland is a bit better. Man, I would love to live in Edinburgh. Here's the thing. I talk about this in more detail on my on the expatriate series. RF equals Russian Federation. No, if I leave, and again, I love San Pedro. I don't want to leave my neighborhood. I really don't. But if it comes down to that, and I decide it's best for myself and my household if we leave, for whatever reason, um, I would likely go to Italy. In the expatriate series, I talk about different ways to obtain a second passport. I am doing it through what's known as citizenship by descent. I qualify for it. So that's what I'm doing. It is a very long process and it has been a huge headache. The next episode, we're going to start talking about it. I'm going to start talking about the process itself, what it's like to go through it, and the headaches I've encountered. Um, so, and it's not fun, but I think it's going to be worth it. Even if I never move, I think it's still going to be well worth it. And yeah, so I would probably go to Italy, and that would allow me, I could basically live anywhere in the EU. So I don't know. I mean, maybe if I wanted to kind of really lean into a more stand-up centric place, I would go to Ireland. But Ireland's crazy expensive. I mean, I guess it depends on where you're at, but a lot of parts of Ireland, they're like crazy expensive. So I think I'd rather be somewhere like Italy where, there's not as much happening with stand-up. It's, you get basically right now to do stand up, and my Italian's not fluent enough that I could do stand up in Italian. I would still have to do it in English. You got to go to Rome, and they got a little bit of stuff. You got to go to Milan, they got a little bit. But I think as the years go by, that will change, and you will see other cities like Napoli, probably Florence. You will see them also get English speaking stand up, as there are, quite frankly, more expats moving abroad, and as you will find more and more people um just the subculture itself is growing. Like there's I mean, I tell this story on Expatriate, and I'll tell it briefly now, but when I was in my early 20s, I was given the opportunity by my family to move to Italy and work for them. They said, "Look, we can help you with the visa. You can move here, you can work here, you can go to school here and decide what you want to do next in your life." And the only reason I didn't do it was because I really wanted to do stand up. At the time, I wasn't even doing stand up. I just knew I had tried it a couple times, but I wasn't doing stand up, but I knew I wanted to do it. And I knew that that just wouldn't really be possible in Italy. Like I just knew I'd have to like fly to the UK whenever I would, want to do stand up. So I didn't want to do that. So I turned it down. And what's interesting is if that same thing was offered to me now, if I was in my early 20s now, um, it'd be different because I would be able to do stand up in Italy. It still wouldn't be easy, but it would be infinitely easier than it was when that was initially offered to me some years ago. So it's interesting. So I guess, yeah, my point is that, who knows if I were to move to Italy, because I don't know when that would be. Maybe it would be in 2 years, maybe it would be in 10 years. I don't know. Maybe it'll be never. Who knows? But if I were to ever do that, who knows what the stand-up, English-speaking stand-up scene would be like. Anyway, thank you for that. um, Edwin, thank you for this excellent question. How can we help you get on Little Steven's Underground Garage? Tweet at them and say you want me to have a show. So Little Steven's Underground Garage, it's a fantastic, I love the music that they play on that station. It's fantastic music on SiriusXM. I would love to have a show on that station. And I think I would honor their format, and I think I would help expand it too. I think I would do a good job. I think I'd be a good addition. Um, I've been trying to get a show on there for some time now. Tweet at them, write them, whatever you got to do, and that certainly can't hurt my cause. And they just got another signal, by the way, or another. Well, what would you call it? I mean, it's a satellite, so it's another station basically. They have 2 stations now, so I feel like they have room for more jocks. I've been trying to get a show on there for years, and I really want one. Um, Ron, I would like to move to Italy, but can't speak Italian. Duolingo, Susan, get Duolingo. It helps. It's not great, but it helps. Man, I really want to do an expatriate. The next episode of Expatriate is going to happen when I get back. I was going to try to do one, and then after that, I need to try to I mean, I started Expatriate recently. It's still a very new series. I'm still learning the footing of it all. And I've also had tour dates in between there. I've also gotten COVID in between there. I've also had to move in between there. I was also helping out on an antitrust campaign in between there. So there's been a lot of things that have sprouted up that have made Get Your News On with Ron land a bit topsy-turvy, as you guys know. Which means Expatriate has also been topsy-turvy. But a lot of you guys have been requesting, let's make that a weekly thing. I would love to do that. I just got to figure out how to make that happen schedule-wise. But I really want to do that. I just want to make sure. I mean, these episodes are very short and concise. Like usually they're about 26 minutes a pop. And it's because I do more research. I do more research ahead of time. Like there's a lot of research that goes into it, and then I curate all the resources and I post it on Substack. I hope you all have been enjoying that. So yeah, anyway, this conversation, the way this conversation's gone has really made me want to get into an Expatriate episode. Yeah, so there you go. Roger Meadows, what's up? Roger Meadows, thank you very much for the Rockfin tip. Hey, Ron, don't mean to be a bother. You are not a bother, Roger Meadows. Without Rockfin tips and super chats, this show would not be able to be on the air. So you are not a bother. Thank you. Hey, Ron, don't mean to be a bother. I said that militantly. I said, Roger, you are not a bother. Do not ever refer to yourself as a bother, sir. You are a well-read, well-informed, well-intentioned human being in New York. And I take offense to you calling yourself a bother. I do not like that self-deprecation from you. I am a comedian. Self-deprecation's my thing, okay? Obviously, I'm kidding. I'm joking around, just in case you thought I was serious. Hey, Ron, don't mean to be a bother. Roger, we've been through this. Don't do that anymore. Okay? Okay. I spoke to Angela Volo from National Infrastructure Bank, and she's waiting on your call. Awesome. I'm going to go to that website, and I'm going to get in touch. Also, making internet utility is great, but not as great as nationalization of it with universal internet access. Let private ISPs offer IT services beyond internet access, like cybersecurity, maintenance, management, repair, etc., of your network. Yeah, I guess I don't know exactly what the difference would be there. I mean, what's the difference between making the internet and a utility and nationalization of it with universal internet access? Like how? I mean, I feel like those are just kind of semantics. Like I think it's just all about like making the internet a utility is just sort of a broad. The internet's a utility, so everyone has to have access to it. There's a number of ways on how to do that, and I feel like you just described one. But I hear you, so I'm with you. Also, I was not available to join them, but I was invited to join State Senate candidate Kristen Gonzalez to protest at Tough Luck Chuck's house. Oh, that's cool. It had to do with climate change, I believe. We are trying to pass the Public Builds Renewable Acts that expand power of New York Power Authority to start the path towards stationalized power. Thank you for that, Rogers. That's awesome. And thank you for everything you do. I really appreciate that. And thank you for turning me on to this National Bank Coalition. I'm going to look into that, and I'm going to reach out to them. So thank you for that. Ron, I'm trying to get Gen Z to leave to do college abroad for free and get paid to do so in some countries. Once they get that free healthcare and internet, they'd never come back. American colleges would panic as they'd start to fold amid the mass exodus, forcing them to offer free public forcing them to offer free college for public colleges and universities. I'm with you. I think you're 100% right there, Roger. And we're going to do more expatriate episodes specifically on college. So thank you for that. And you're absolutely right. I mean, people who do that, who go abroad, they're just like, what the hell? Why do we live like this in the United States? It's the question I've been asking myself ever since the first time I went to Italy. First time I went to Italy, it was in college. I've been asking myself that question ever since, and it becomes more and more of a frustrating, burning question. Now, just so you know, things aren't perfect in other places. Italy ain't, but I was talking to my buddy who's from the United States, and he moved to Italy after college because he met a girl over there. They're married with 3 kids now. And, I was talking to him, and sometimes I feel like I make it out like the grass is so much greener everywhere else. And I know that's a bad habit, and I check myself on it. And I said to him, I'm like, yeah, man, I mean, I'm not saying that you live in utopia. I know you got your problems. And he just said, he's like, not compared to you guys. He goes, yeah, we have our problems, but they pale in comparison compared to y'all. So anyway, all right. So let me see here. Roger, you go on to say, Ron, I got a call from the National Low Income Housing Coalition yesterday in their annual Out of Reach project report that says the minimum wage should be per state in the more expensive jurisdictions of each state based on local rent rates of for 2-bedroom apartments working 40 hours with 30% contribution. Rent will be coming out 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time Thursday. Also, all the ballot initiatives that'll be on the California November ballot. It's interesting. And yeah, I need to look into that. But speaking more broadly on your comment, it's interesting. A lot of the people, they go, look, well, we should use the cost of living index to determine them. Like they use those arguments, and I know that's not what you're doing, Roger. But sometimes people who are against raising the federal minimum wage, they use things like the cost of living index, and they say we should just go by that. What I find interesting is if you actually did a true cost of living analysis, the minimum wage would actually be higher than what we're proposing federally. You know what I mean? So it's like they what they really want is they just don't want a minimum wage. But if we actually did what they're proposing and we use the cost of living index and we make it different per state, it'll be higher than just having a federal minimum wage. Because by federal minimum wage, they could be like, well, it's the federal minimum wage, even if it's not livable in this area. So, and you would find that the minimum wage in every state, I think, would likely be higher. No matter the state, whether it's Mississippi or California, it would likely be higher than what they would try to get away with federally. What are you basing that off of, Ron? Well, I'm basing it off of the fact that the federal minimum wage in this country is still $7.25 an hour, and that's not livable anywhere. That is not livable anywhere in this country. So, thank you, Laugh66. Thank you, Venetia David. And yeah, thank you for your thoughts on Michelle. I know that Michelle, I just don't get Michelle. I don't. I never did. We're referring to the Beatles song Michelle. We're not referring to like some random person that we both know. That'd be kind of rude. But the Beatles song Michelle, I have been open that is my least favorite Beatles song. There's something about it. It's like if a spider crawling on you was a song, like "Me to lever." I'm like, what? Yeah. But music's subjective, and hey, I don't want to yuck anyone's yum. Laugh66, if Michelle's your jam, that's awesome. A lot of people love that song, so I'm the problem. But I just don't. It just doesn't do it for me. I love Paul's tunes. There's a lot of Paul tunes that I love. I prefer John overall. Ron, are you a McCartney or a Lennon guy? Pretty much all. Yeah, I'm a Lennon guy. All my most, like, my favorite Beatles songs are all John songs. Day in the Life, In My Life. I Should Have Known Better. That was the first Beatles song I ever really connected with. Because I think when you're really young, you might not get the Beatles right away. And when I say really young, I mean like 6. Like when I first heard the Beatles, it just wasn't quite rocking enough for me. I really connected with heavy distorted guitars. Like I really connected with one of the first rock and roll riffs I really got into was Aqualung by Jethro Tull. Like that really, like I was like, whoa, that's awesome. Still love it, by the way. But so the Beatles, They didn't like there wasn't a like I didn't hear that as much in the Beatles, so it took me a little longer. But the first Beatles song I really connected with was I Should Have Known Better. I should and I got more into the Beatles as I got a little older. I went through a big Beatles stint in college. I think everybody does. Everyone goes through a big Beatles stint in college. Um, and Roger, you're back. What's up, Roger? 2021 report said the top 10 most expensive jurisdictions are in California. Suggestions was from 44 to 68 and change for minimum wage. Can't wait to see what they'll be on Thursday. Yeah. Well, hey, the minimum wage is nowhere near that high here in California. So, yeah, it's so interesting. If you actually look at what it costs to live, and if they actually base the wages on that, it would probably be a lot higher than just allowing them to just do their politics and being like, well, we're going to make it. Because what they do is they're like, hey, we have the highest minimum wage here in California. It's like, I believe it's going up, or well, at least in Los Angeles, I believe it's going up to 16 soon. I think, or it might have already, it might have at the beginning of this month actually, but I think it's going to be 16 in LA. So they're like, hey, we got the highest minimum wage in the country. Well, is that actually livable in California? I mean, I mean, you certainly couldn't live on your own. I don't think anyone who makes $16 an hour, uh, 40 hours a week could live on their own in California, or Los Angeles. They might be able to live with a lot of roommates. They might be able to like split a house in an affordable neighborhood, but they can't live on their own making that. Anyway, so Roger, that is interesting. So when you actually look at the cost of living, it should be between 44 and 68 an hour, which we ain't going to see that anytime soon. But Roger, thank you so much for your generosity. You help keep the show on the air. Venetia, thank you very much for your generosity. You help keep the show on the air. And Laugh66, thank you very much for your generosity. You help keep the show on the air. Guys, tour dates, I got them. That's why the show's today and not the usual Thursday. July 28th, Portland, Oregon. July 29th, Seattle, Washington. July 30th, Vancouver, British Columbia. Get your tickets now at romplacone.com. That's Portland, Seattle, Vancouver. Portland, I know it's going to be hot, but the venue's got air conditioning. So Portland, July 28th, Seattle, July 29th, Vancouver, July 30th. Romplacone.com for tickets. That's myself and Graham Elwood on tour. Thank you very much again, Venetia, David, Laugh66, and Roger Meadows over on the Rockfin. You guys help keep the show on the air. If you want to support the show on the sustainability end, the best way to do it, patreon.com/romplacone. I really want to make Expatriate a weekly series. I really want to keep everything afloat. I need your help to do so. Patreon.com/romplacone. For a give what you can level, you get all kinds of cool perks. You get the patron streams in their entirety. You get stand-up clips not available anywhere else. You get to watch my mini pilot loaner that's not out to the public yet. And you get stand-up, and you get, I'll make you a theme song. And that's all for a give what you can level. Even $1 a month goes a long way. I don't care about the $1 a month. I want the community. I mean that sincerely. So if you're thinking, Ron, I can spare $1 a month, but that's not enough, right? No, it is. I want your membership. That's what's most important to me. I want a community of people that I can keep totally informed about what I'm doing, that I can produce shows with, that I can share ideas with. That's what I want. So please, patreon.com/romplacone. If you can give more than $1 a month, that's great. If you can give $1 a month is all you can give, that's fine too. And the suggested amount is $5. That's just because I have to have some suggested amount. No matter what level you give at, you get all the same perks. Regardless of what Patreon says, you have to put a minimum in. But whatever level you give, you get all the same perks. $5 is the suggested. It doesn't have to be that. It can be anything you want. Well, unless it's less than $1, it can't be that. But anything $1 or more, it could be whatever you want, and you get all the same perks. Everyone gets all the same perks. Patreon.com/romplacone. Please do sign up if you are interested and able. Guys, thank you so much for being here. I'll be back next week. I'm hitting the road. So I won't be here the rest of this week. I'll be coming at you with some road videos, and I'll be doing the road journals for the patrons and stuff like that. But we won't have a full stream until next week because I am hitting the road. So I'll be back next week, and we'll be tweaking the schedule then too. I know, again, between the April tour, between this weekend of shows, between getting COVID, between moving, between helping out on a campaign, it's been really hard for me to get the new footing together for this new series, the Expatriate series. But once I'm home, I'm going to be home pretty much for the most part for the rest of the year. So I'm not going anywhere. There will be no more touring for the rest of the year. I might have some personal stuff happening, but that'll be it. So I'll have more time to just focus on getting the schedule right. You know what I mean? So, oh, it's Mick Jagger's birthday today. That is cool. That's some fun music news to close. Thank you very much for that, Edwin. So, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for being part of this. We'll be back next week. And in the meantime, you know the drill. Lucy, she says meow. I say peace, love, and a general strike.